This rock is too big for the excavator that we currently have on site. Machine. We got like a little archaeological dig happening here right now. Brent is buried back in there. That rock is perfectly flat. Look at that. Hey, what's up everybody? Ed the Pond Professor here. I am back on our project over in Frankfort, Illinois. With the pond beyond, we are getting ready to start out on some more of the stream construction. And this has been a challenging project in a lot of different ways. A lot of snow, we had a ton of rain. Now it's 90+ degrees. This is to the point where we need to connect the upper section to the lower section, and that's gonna happen with this incredible waterfall right in the middle. They come in, so we got a great selection of beautiful pieces of weathered limestone, moss rocks. I mean, just check these things out. They are spectacular. These pieces are going to be critical in order for us to put everything together properly. So whenever we're talking about stream design, the better quality materials that you have, the better it's going to look. There's really no other way to get around it. When you're working with aged stone that has tons of character on it, you have these big flat pieces and slabs, and then you have these big craggy ones. All that different stuff just sells it. It makes it look like it's been there for thousands and thousands of years. We create the illusion that an actual stream and waterfall that is flowing from this section above, cascading its way down into this natural lake, and then the house was built around all of it. But in reality, it's a recirculating system. So what we want to try to do is pull it off in a way that makes it work. And one of the ways to do that is to have the right materials. You can see all the stuff that we have right now here on site that's already been installed, as well as the new material that has come in that's going to help us achieve that. So an important tip to remember when you're working on large waterfalls, make sure you over excavate. I'm not saying depth-wise, what I'm talking about is width-wise. You could always backfill up to your stone. So what I want to do is give myself plenty of room. I try to oversize my liner as much as possible, and that gives me flexibility. And that's the beauty of working with a liner type of a system. You could excavate, place the rocks where they look good, and if they don't look good and you have additional material, you could excavate beyond those boundaries. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. And when we're talking about artistry, flexibility is key. Now the challenge that we have here, we have hard structures on either side that have been set. Upper terrace that has been established, new retaining wall, and then we have another retaining wall on the other side. So we're trying to sandwich everything in between there. This upper section is important because we have these stacked slate urns. We have another large one that's going in kind of right over here in this corner. And then we're gonna have this big waterfall coming down into a smaller upper pool. Big fall coming down again, so we're trying to create a couple terraces. Another thing to talk about when you're designing, understand limitations of your equipment, understand the size rocks that you're working with, because I could have very easily done a waterfall from here all the way down to this level. It would have been a 5-foot tall waterfall. But to do that, I need huge rocks over there. I don't have those rocks here on site, and I don't have a piece of equipment big enough to set something of that size. So this way, I could do smaller rocks up on top and then bigger ones down in here. The same net effect is still I'm getting that 5 foot in height, but it's just kind of spread out over 2 falls instead of one big one. The reason I'm saying it is don't try to dig a huge waterfall and then stack a bunch of stuff like this on top of each other, because it will literally come out looking like a staircase. The subgrade material on this project is brutal. Just because of all the construction traffic and everything, it's a mixture of mud, sand, stone fines, lots of crushed rock mixed in with clay that turns it into concrete. We're over excavating everything. We're putting down a layer of sand, 1-2 inches, not much, just to kind of blend everything over. Then we go over the top of that with our heavy duty geotextile fabric, the rubber liner, another layer of the geotextile, really to kind of sandwich everything together to give us the right load bearing capacity while minimizing the risk of any type of rupture of the liner itself. So here's our first rock going in the lower part of the waterfall. The actual top of this rock was beautiful, so it was all mossy and everything, but we flipped it over because we wanted that nice smooth surface for that waterfall itself to come off of. So we have our strap in place. So these are nylon lifting straps coming around. You can see we're just barely getting around the outside edges. You just need to grab enough to hold on to the stone. You don't want to go too deep into it, otherwise you won't be able to get the strap out after you lift it. This rock is too big for the excavator that we currently have on site, so our large cat machine is gone, so we're gonna have to use the skid steer. A lot more challenging, actually. So here's another beautiful stone that we have to work with. You can see how this comes. So this is that weathered limestone, so it's an awesome rock, harvested from the surface of the ground. It's exposed to the atmosphere, obviously. It's getting rained on, all the weathering. It's creating all these beautiful features inside of the stone. If you look at the way this rock comes, it comes in a series of layers and ledges. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this over, and I'm guessing that the bottom of that is really, really flat. So that will be the top of the waterfall. So let's flip that over. Yeah, look at that. So it's perfectly flat. It's got a nice little ledge on there and everything. You still see those little crevices and everything. And the beauty of all this is going to be that moss will continue to grow because this will be in a saturated situation. So let's set this guy right over in this corner. So the idea with this waterfall, the design is that waterfall is visible from here, from this patio. We still want to have viewing areas from over here, from the bar, from the swimming pool, from the kitchen, and all the rest of the house. So this waterfall is coming way out over here. So remember what I talked about earlier. We always overdig everything. So we excavate the area, then we position the stones where they're going to look good and create the desired effect for us. So that's just a template. Now we're going to set the rocks to give us the actual look. Everything is looking really good here. Can't wait to see this run. So you can see the rocks have been in place. Now what we're gonna do is we have to put a big anchor stone here. It's gonna divert the water over the top of that waterfall stone. You can see behind the waterfall stones, we over excavate everything. We have a geotextile on the liner itself. Then we have a secondary one that's basically going behind the rocks. The reason we're doing that is because we're putting all this crushed stone in here. I don't want that crushed stone migrating between all the little joints underneath the bottom of the rock. So that's gonna create a nice barrier for us. What we're gonna do is we're gonna layer up with more crushed stone. Then on top of that, we'll be able to come in with some more fine-tuning leveling rocks that will divert the water into the final location, as well as put in some of these big anchor stones on the outside perimeters that'll help tie everything together. So Tom's putting in that fabric right now on the other side. We're getting that side prepared for some gravel, but we are going to come in here another layer first. Project update. We have shifted gears once again. We were working on the upper stream, but we decided to kind of close the gap. So this section in between is now begun. Just got this beautiful stone over here. That's going to be our waterfall rock. We have this beautiful flat plane to work with. This works perfectly for large, wide waterfalls. Brent and Tom are strapping these up right now. I want to show you a little bit of that technique. So that strap is kind of coming in underneath. We want to try to keep it a little bit to the edge. Pull that back that way a hair, Tom, if you can, just so we could pull it out a little bit easier. And these straps are extremely strong and durable. We would not be able to do what we do without the straps. So you can see how Brent has it on that side, just barely going around that back edge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to strap it to the forks of the machine. We're going to drop it into position. So this is our waterfall. That waterfall is going to be facing main viewing area over here, which happens to be that office. It's going to be the beautiful cascade coming down right in this section. Set the waterfall first, then we're going to come in and we're going to set what we call our frame rocks on either side of it. That's going to funnel the water over the top of the stone, which is exactly what you could see happen down here. Flat one, big chunks, and then in between you could put in other smaller stones and things like that to have the water bounce around. So the waterfall is complete. Now what we need to do is we have to backfill all these edges. We got this entire pool done. We have some foaming work to do over on this side. We have a little rock to find just to block that little corner to get all the water going over that waterfall. But this is all coming together really, really nice. Now what we're working on is this connecting piece. We're going from the lower section here all the way to the top. Brent just started doing the excavation up on the top. Just set our elevations. So now he's digging to the appropriate level. We already found the waterfall stone that we want to use. That's going to be the rock that's going to go right in this section. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it a little bit high. That's going to kind of back this up to give us about 6 inches of water in that little pooling area. It'll be a great place for the kids to splash around and play. Nice and safe, fast moving water, but shallow, so it'll be perfect for them. This section right where the machine is at, this is going to have a big stone slab bridge. So the reason we're putting a waterfall there is to kind of create the sight and the sound that we're looking for. Then we'll have this nice big slab going across. That's just going to be a footbridge. The big bridge that's going in way over here, and that's going to be more for the ATVs, golf carts, and that type of stuff. So we always take all the main viewing areas into consideration when we're designing and building waterfalls and streams. So as you can see here, the back of the house is sprawling. We have a huge distance from one end to the other. So we're trying to have different areas of the waterfalls visible from other viewing areas. We have the big stack slate urns up here starting everything out, which are visible from all directions. And then we have waterfalls that are facing specific locations. This lower one that we're working on right now is facing towards Bill's office. What I want to discuss right now is, again, this is just 3 stones, pretty simple. We have a big flat slab in between, got a nice face on it. It's gonna have a really good sheet of water coming off of it. Then we have a couple other low profile rocks adjacent to it. And as you can see, the elevation, they are slightly higher, and that's because we want to force the water to go through the lower one. So that's gonna kind of act as like a bumper. Water's gonna come up, hit it, and kind of go around it. Now what we have to do, we have to fill the areas behind it. We have to extend the stream bottom all the way across into this area. So this void is gonna get filled in with riverstone. First, we're going to fill this big joint underneath here with cobblestones and chunks of other rock from the back side. So we'll lock it all into place. Once we have the crushed stone in place, we come over with extra layer of fabric or liner, whichever we decide, and we'll use our waterfall foam sealant. So what that will do is that'll create an impermeable membrane that will force all the water to go above everything. So again, if you just filled this with river rock and then had water going over it, all the water is going to disappear down through the river stone. So next steps, we got cobblestones right here. We're going to fill in those joints with cobblestone. Then we'll fill in with river rock and foam it in place, and then we'll be set. So you can see what we've done here. We've come in behind, as I said. We filled all this in with crushed stone, and then this one we've already completed. We've covered it up with more of the heavy-duty fabric, but we've used the waterfall foam sealant underneath it. So that's going to create a waterproof barrier, and it's going to force the water over the top of this rock. We then set in a few more smaller stones. This will have river stone down in between, and then water will allow it to come all the way over that back side. This next big rock that Brent is bringing in, that's going to go right on this back edge. That's going to kind of delineate the back side of the waterfall from that planting bed. So we're trying to create a series of layers here just to add some visual interest. So our next step, once that is set, come in here, foam all this in place, do some other small stone, work our way down this edge towards where the bridge is going to be, and then we'll be able to keep working south.